Imagine you are just uh, hours away from the absolute biggest athletic performance of your entire life.
Right?
Millions of people are tuning in. You've got this billion-dollar sports franchise literally relying on you to perform at the peak of human physical capability.
No pressure, right.
Yeah, exactly. No pressure at all. So you're in the locker room, the tension is just palpable, and you walk over to the pregame spread to, fuel up for this massive physical collision. And what is sitting right there?
It's pretty shocking,
It's reheated pizza, chicken wings, breaded mac and cheese.
which completely shatters that illusion we all have of professional sports. I mean, we just assume these state-of-the-art facilities are, like, tracking every single calorie.
Right, with supercomputers or something.
Yeah, we picture this cutting-edge science and precision, but the reality behind the scenes is often this profound disconnect between the value of the athlete and the actual fuel they are given.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are completely tearing down the facade of what it actually takes to be elite.
We really are.
We're pulling apart a super fascinating conversation from the Ultimate Human platform. It features human biologist Gary Brecka and Las Vegas professional football player Maxx Crosby.
It's an incredible source dialogue.
It really is. And our mission today is to essentially deconstruct the anatomy of extreme, almost unhinged discipline. We're going to explore how someone takes the incredibly destructive energy of severe addiction, isolates it, and literally channels it into a blueprint for elite performance.
Both physical and financial performance, honestly. And we'll also be analyzing this really critical psychological framework from the sources. It's the concept of operating through a microscope versus a telescope.
Which is just essential for anyone, really, trying to navigate any high-stress environment in your own life.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive really deep into the actual biology of recovery. Because like we saw with the locker room pizza, these billion-dollar teams invest heavily in speed and strength. But the granular science of cellular repair, that is often left entirely up to the individual athlete.
I think we casually look at these top-tier athletes and just chalk it up to pure talent.
Oh, all the time.
We tell ourselves, they hit the genetic lottery and that's why they're on TV and we aren't. But true success at that level is about micromanaging every single second of the day, to a degree that a normal person would probably find suffocating.
Suffocating is the perfect word for it. Let's start with the catalyst. Because Maxx Crosby didn't just wake up one day with this perfect routine.
No, he had a brutal wake-up call. This was during his second year in the league, which was the COVID year.
Right, the COVID year,
Yeah.
which was notoriously difficult for everyone across the board. But for him, there were compounding factors that created this absolute perfect storm.
He was playing through immense physical trauma, right?
Yeah, he had a torn labrum in his shoulder and a broken hand. And to understand the gravity of that...
I mean, a torn labrum sounds bad, but what does that actually mean for a football player?
Well, it isn't just a pain issue. It completely destabilizes the entire shoulder joint. And for a defensive lineman whose entire job is violently engaging with, like 300-pound offensive lineman using his hands and arms.
Oh, wow. So his primary weapon is just compromise.
Exactly. His biomechanics are entirely shot. And on top of this physical breakdown, he felt heavy, his sleep architecture was totally ruined, and he was freshly sober.
Right. He had literally just gotten clean. So he's dealing with the raw reality of life without his primary coping mechanism.
Which is terrifying.
And there's this pivotal moment in the source material that really stands out. He wakes up one morning, walks into his bathroom, looks in the mirror, and literally does not recognize the person staring back at him.
Yeah, he's looking at his trajectory and realizes that if he doesn't change something right then, he's just going to be a quote-unquote good story.
Oof, I think we all know that archetype, right? The guy who had a ton of potential, overcame a little adversity, had a totally average career, and then just quietly faded into obscurity.
Right. And he just utterly refused to accept that narrative.
He really did. And that refusal triggered this radical paradigm shift in his relationship with his environment. He started seeking out different operational models.
Yeah, he ends up having a conversation with Tom Brady. And that is actually where the revelation about the locker room food came from.
Oh, right. Brady was the one who pointed out the absurdity of feeding these guys breaded mac and cheese and reheated pizza right before championship games.
Exactly.
I'm still kind of stuck on this, though. How does a multi-billion-dollar franchise justify feeding their multi-million-dollar assets absolute junk food?
It comes down to understanding the business model of professional sports. I mean, the franchise is entirely focused on the collective and the immediate output.
Like just winning this Sunday.
Yes. They provide the gym, they provide the playbook, they have the medical staff to patch you up for the game. But the deep internal longevity of your specific biological engine, that is not their primary concern at all.
Because they're basically just renting you.
That's a great way to put it. They are renting you. If your engine burns out at age 28, they don't really care. They will simply draft a 21-year-old replacement.
Wow. And Max recognized this gap. He realized, okay, the team provides the facility, but they don't provide the blueprint for my cellular longevity.
Right. He realized he couldn't rely on the default options.
It's like if you buy a premium sports car, a literal Ferrari, you don't take it to a cheap corner gas station just because they offer like free hot dogs with a fill-up.
Exactly. You find the absolute highest octane fuel available.
Right. So Max decided to essentially build his own premium fuel supply. He started spending $2,500 a month out of his own pocket on private meal prep.
6 meals a day.
6 meals a day, eating them at the exact same time every single day like a robot.
And he maintains that rigid structure regardless of his environment, which is the crazy part.
Let's explore the psychology of that for a second, though. The team has a cafeteria. The food there is completely free. And he's a young athlete. He hasn't signed his massive, life-changing mega contract yet at this point in the story.
Right. He's still on his rookie deal.
Yeah. So why on earth would he spend $2,500 of his own money on something he could ostensibly get without spending a dime? I mean, isn't that just throwing money away?
Not if you view it through the lens of psychological ownership.
Yeah.
Because when you reach that elite level, your body is your entire business. It is your meal ticket.
Right.
You simply cannot outsource the responsibility of taking care of it to an organization. By paying that $2,500 a month out of pocket, he's creating this intense psychological buy-in.
Ah, so it shifts his locus of control.
Exactly. When you invest your own capital into premium fuel, you implicitly demand that the machine runs perfectly to justify the cost. You stop being an employee of the team, and you start acting like the CEO of your own body.
I love that concept of psychological buy-in. And you really see how visible this shift becomes to the people around him in the sources.
Oh, the private jet story.
Yes. There's this incredible moment that illustrates this perfectly. Dana White, the CEO of the UFC, provides a luxury private jet to fly a group from Vegas to Miami. Gary Brecka is on this flight, and Max is on this flight.
Right.
Max gets on this ultra-luxury jet surrounded by high-level people, and he just unpacks his own prepackaged Tupperware meals.
In an environment entirely designed for absolute indulgence.
Right.
And he's just eating perfectly calculated macros out of plastic containers.
Everyone is looking at him like he has completely lost his mind, but Gary Brecka spots it instantly.
Right. Gary immediately recognizes the behavior.
Yeah, he sees this guy eating out of a container on a private jet and realizes, oh, this guy's awake. He gets it. He's completely dialed in to his wellness. He isn't bending his routine just for the sake of social comfort.
But that level of rigid control, eating out of Tupperware on a jet, timing 6 meals a day perfectly, that doesn't just occur naturally in a vacuum. It requires a tremendous amount of internal force.
Yeah, where does that come from?
Well, this discipline was not just some clever performance hack he read about in a magazine. It was a directly learned survival mechanism. He needed it to replace a much darker obsession.
Right. Let's look at the genesis of that obsession because it's so important. Max grew up as an insecure, redheaded kid with a baby face. He just wanted to fit in, to be part of the crowd.
Like most kids do.
Exactly. Then he has his first drink, and suddenly the insecurity vanishes. The social anxiety just evaporates. He feels confident. He feels like he finally has a personality.
The substance provides this illusion of a completed self. It temporarily patches all the psychological holes. But the reality of his alcoholism very quickly became isolating, as it always does.
Yeah, he describes this profound feeling that nobody understood him. He pushed away his family and his friends who genuinely tried to intervene, and he retreated into this paranoid, self-contained echo chamber.
Where the addiction is literally the only priority.
Right. And he brings up a famous adage in recovery circles that perfectly captures the insidious nature of the disease. He says, it's not the 15th drink that's the problem, it's the first.
Right.
The first drink is the catalyst. Everything after that is just gravity taking over. And he has been sober for over 4 years now.
Which is incredible. But Gary Brecka introduces a biological theory of addiction in the discussion that completely reframed how we should probably look at this. Gary argues that addicts do not wake up in the morning and say, I want to completely destroy my life today.
Right. Nobody wants that.
The intention is never self-destruction. The intention is simply to feel normal. Gary breaks this down from a neurochemical perspective.
Mm.
Addiction is heavily rooted in a severe dopamine deficit.
And dopamine isn't just the pleasure chemical, right? That's kind of a misconception.
Huge misconception. It is the primary driver of motivation and pursuit. It is the molecule of wanting. When a person has a severely compromised dopamine baseline, whether that's through genetics, trauma, or substance abuse, they engage in high-risk dopamine-seeking behaviors.
Just to get to the baseline that a healthy person wakes up with naturally.
Exactly. The addict is actually running away from a crushing, apathetic low rather than just hedonistically chasing a high.
Wow. So the substance is just an incredibly inefficient, destructive medicine for a biological deficit. This is where the application for you, the listener, becomes so fascinating. Because the addiction itself doesn't actually disappear.
No, it doesn't.
Max openly admits he is still an addict. He still has the temper. The core neurological wiring that makes him obsessive is definitely still there, but the pathology shifts.
He took the exact same all-consuming energy that kept him out at clubs until dawn, the energy required to survive the physical devastation the next day, find the next drink, and maintain the lie, and he poured it directly into his profession.
The intensity of the drive is identical, only the target has changed.
Exactly.
Think about the sheer mathematics of the time he recovered. If you are spending all night out drinking and then the entire next day feeling terrible, barely functioning, just trying to claw your way back to a baseline of 0,
Right.
and suddenly you stop and you take all those hours back, it's like you have unlocked a 30-hour day while everyone else is working with 24.
And we can observe exactly how he weaponizes this reclaimed obsessive energy. It clearly manifests in his training environment. For example, during team win sprints, Max refuses to run with the other defensive linemen.
Which are his positional peers. Those are the guys his own size.
Right. Instead, he forces himself to race against the skill players.
He is lining up against wide receivers and defensive backs. These are guys who weigh like 80 pounds less than him and whose entire professional existence is predicated on pure, explosive speed.
He is deliberately seeking out the deepest water to swim in. He actually requires an impossible target to satisfy that internal drive. And this bleeds into literally everything he does, even his leisure time.
Oh, the video game thing.
Yes. He notes that if he loses a game of NBA 2K, his night is completely ruined. He absolutely refuses to go to sleep until he wins a game.
That's intense.
The obsessive compulsion, the need to conquer the obstacle, simply must be satisfied before his brain will allow him to rest.
I genuinely struggle with whether that is healthy, you know?
Yeah.
Is extreme success actually just redirected pathology?
It's a great question.
It seems like you need a certain level of unhinged, maladaptive obsession to reach the top 1% of the 1%. But if you have that much volatile energy running through your system, you need incredible structural filters. Otherwise, you'll just tear yourself apart.
Which leads perfectly to a vital operational concept Gary introduces, the invisible fence.
Right, the invisible fence. Tell us about that.
The premise is that we must proactively filter our environment before it enters the temple, meaning our body. The alternative is forcing the temple itself to act as the filter, which extracts a massive physiological toll over time.
Let's build on that idea for the listener. Think of your body like a high-end computer processing system. If you do not install a firewall, a spam filter, your inbox just gets flooded with malware.
Exactly.
Your computer's CPU now has to spend like 40% of its energy running background virus scans just to keep the machine from crashing. It slows down every other application.
That's a perfect analogy. If you don't set up the invisible fence around your physical life, your liver, your kidneys, and your joints become the spam folder. They spend all their energy catching the environmental junk instead of recovering your muscles.
So what's a tangible example of this environmental junk?
A perfect tangible example Gary uses is tap water. If you consume unfiltered tap water, your body is forced to process and filter out fluoride, chlorine, microplastics, and even pharmaceutical runoff. Yeah. Now, the human body is remarkably resilient. It will filter those things. But the invoice you pay for that internal filtration process is systemic inflammation.
And inflammation is the absolute silent killer of elite performance.
It really is. And the vascular biology involved here is critical to understand. When we think of blood flow, we typically picture the heart pumping blood through these large arteries and veins.
Right, like a big plumbing system.
Exactly. However, 70% of our blood flow actually occurs in the microvascular circulation. These are capillary beds so microscopic that the physical pumping of the heart cannot force blood through them.
Wait, really? The heart can't reach them?
No, it can't. They rely entirely on something called vasomotor activity.
Hmm.
This is the actual independent contracting and relaxing of the tiny vessels themselves to push the blood along.
That's fascinating.
So when you force your body to constantly filter environmental microtoxins, those toxins damage that delicate microvascular network.
Oh, I see. So if the capillaries are damaged, oxygen and nutrients just aren't reaching the deep tissue.
Right. And this connects directly to the catastrophic sports injuries we see every weekend on TV.
Specifically non-contact injuries, right?
Yes, non-contact injuries. When an athlete is running in open space, makes a standard explosive cut, and suddenly blows an Achilles tendon or tears an ACL without a single defender touching them.
It's always so shocking when that happens.
It is, but it's frequently because that microvascular network was already compromised by chronic inflammation. The tissue was essentially starved of nutrients at a cellular level, making it brittle. They simply hadn't prepped the tissue to handle the force.
This is exactly why Max's invisible fence has to be so unyielding. His routine is just brutal. He is awake at 5:30 a.m. and works nonstop until 9:00 p.m.
He utilizes cold plunges 365 days a year.
And he isn't just going to some fancy spa for this. He literally installed a steel cattle trough in his shower at home so he never has an excuse to miss a day, even in the dead of the off-season.
Because the cold plunge isn't just about waking up, It is a profound biological trigger. It shocks the system, causing a massive release of norepinephrine, which sharply reduces inflammation.
Oh, interesting.
And it forces vascular constriction and dilation, which trains that exact vasomotor activity we just discussed.
He is also heavily utilizing Normatec compression, saunas, and PEMF therapy. Let's break those down because I hear these terms thrown around a lot in wellness spaces. What is PEMF actually doing?
PEMF stands for Pulsed Electromagnetic Field Therapy.
Sounds like science fiction.
It really does, but it is deeply grounded in cellular biology. Every cell in your body essentially operates like a tiny battery with a specific voltage. When tissue is damaged or inflamed, that cellular voltage drops.
Okay.
PEMF technology sends magnetic energy into the body that works with your body's natural magnetic field to improve healing. It essentially recharges the cellular batteries, allowing them to intake nutrients and expel waste much more efficiently.
That's wild. And what about Normatec?
Normatec is pneumatic compression. It uses air pressure to massage the limbs, mechanically forcing lymphatic fluid and metabolic waste products like lactic acid out of the muscles after extreme exertion.
He is attacking recovery with the exact same violence he attacks offensive linemen.
It really is.
And this highlights a crucial distinction discussed in the sources: the difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is just a fleeting, unreliable emotional state. You wake up, the sun is shining, you feel rested, you want to go to the gym.
Right, that is motivation.
But discipline is a cold, unemotional structure. Max played an entire season requiring his knee to be drained of fluid with a needle every single week following surgery. Motivation does not march you into a doctor's office for a weekly needle in the joint. Discipline does.
Absolutely. And to maintain that level of discipline, you cannot rely solely on your own willpower. You must construct an environment that enforces it. Max has built a team to uphold his standards.
Yeah, he has Ricky, a nutritionist from Canada, who calculates his macronutrients down to the single gram.
And then there is his strength coach, Rick Slade. Slade is a veteran with 25 years in Major League Baseball and 7 years in the NFL. And the dynamic Slade creates in the weight room is incredibly revealing about Max's mindset.
This detail is hilarious, but also kind of terrifying. Other professional football players literally try to duck Rick Slade in the weight room. They actively avoid the guy.
Right, because if you work with Rick, he forces you to do 3 excruciating warm-up sets just to prep the central nervous system before you even touch the actual workout sets.
And he makes them do 7-second eccentric lowers.
Let's explain the biomechanics of an eccentric lower for a second. When you lift a weight, say a bicep curl, the lifting portion is the concentric phase. Lowering the weight back down is the eccentric phase.
Okay, that makes sense.
Muscle damage, the micro tears that actually force the body to rebuild stronger tissue, occurs primarily during the eccentric phase.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So by forcing an athlete to take a full 7 seconds to lower a heavy weight, Slade is maximizing the time under tension. This doesn't just build muscle size, it thickens the tendons and ligaments. It builds dense, resilient armor.
It sounds like your muscles are slowly ripping apart. It is pure agony. And Max actively seeks out the coach that every other giant in that building is hiding from.
It is the biological manifestation of the philosophy. enhancing recovery to enhance performance. You cannot biohack the game of football itself. The collisions are a violent reality.
Right.
But you can biohack the tissue's ability to survive the collision and recover from it.
But you know, a physical fortress is totally useless if the people inside the walls are constantly setting fires.
Exactly.
You need a strong foundation and hypervigilant guards at the gate. If your personal life is chaotic, the invisible fence collapses. The stress hormones alone will just undo all the cold plunges and PEMF sessions.
Precisely. Which brings us to the absolute necessity of a ruthlessly curated inner circle. This is particularly vital when an individual achieves sudden, massive wealth and public fame.
Right, because success attracts people.
It attracts what Gary calls vampires. These are opportunistic people looking to extract resources, energy, and access without contributing any real value.
But Max's inner circle is locked down tight. It consists of his college friends who are literally sleeping on his floor from day one. His cousin, his daughter, and his wife Rachel.
Rachel's role in this ecosystem is fascinating.
It really is. Long before he had the $2,500 budget for a private chef, Rachel was the one carefully measuring and cooking his pre-portioned meals.
And she is described as someone who is fundamentally unimpressed by the lifestyle.
Right. She wears simple black tights and a tank top. But her absolute superpower is her ability to instantly identify a fake, opportunistic person the second they walk in the room.
Gary introduces a really compelling concept to explain this dynamic, referring to it as the Spain scale of emotion.
The Spain scale.
Yeah. He suggests that in these scenarios, women aren't operating on some mystical psychic intuition. Instead, they often possess a hypersensitivity to behavioral frequency, microexpressions, and authenticity. They unconsciously recognize the pattern of an inauthentic person.
They can just sniff it out. Even if that person rolls up in a $250,000 Ferrari, wearing designer shoes and saying all the perfect things, Rachel just knows.
She just knows.
Now, I have to be honest. I can imagine it would be incredibly irritating to have a partner who is right about other people 100% of the time.
Max openly admits that it genuinely infuriates him sometimes. He describes this recurring cycle. Rachel will warn him about a new acquaintance. He will get defensive and argue that the guy is just misunderstood or a great contact.
And then
2 months later, inevitably, that exact same guy stabs him in the back or tries to exploit him.
every single time. But having that baseline of pure, unvarnished truth in your house is a critical asset. It isn't just about emotional support. It is literal risk mitigation for his entire enterprise.
Absolutely.
And this grounding effect was amplified exponentially by fatherhood. There is a profound contrast highlighted in his journey regarding this. When Rachel first showed him the positive pregnancy test, she had hidden it in a little box as a surprise. His initial reaction was sheer terror. He totally panicked.
Which is a remarkably honest and understandable reaction, if you think about it. Think about his life up to that point. To survive severe addiction and subsequently to reach the absolute pinnacle of professional sports requires a tremendous amount of self-focus.
Your schedule, your recovery, your sleep, everything revolves around your physical vessel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fatherhood demands an immediate and total suspension of that self-centeredness.
But now he is entirely devoted to his daughter. She apparently wanders around their massive house wearing little pink and black shades, completely dictating the vibe of the home.
It's a great image.
It really is. And Gary shares a beautiful piece of wisdom his own mother gave him about parenthood, which I think perfectly encapsulates this psychological shift.
His mother told him, "There is a whole person inside of you that you've never met yet, and you've never loved anything more than you loved yourself."
It is the ultimate ego death.
It is. The athlete's ego, which is so incredibly necessary for survival on the field, must be dismantled at the front door.
And Gary actually practices what he preaches regarding intentional fatherhood. He describes this habit he calls his sunshine file.
I loved this part.
Yeah. Since his own daughter was 4 years old and she is 25 now, he has quietly saved every single receipt from their father-daughter date nights. A ticket stub from a Ferris wheel, a movie ticket, a receipt from a random Greek restaurant.
He has archived it all with the intention of giving it to her on her wedding day.
It just demonstrates the profound level of intentionality these men are bringing to their private lives, not just their public careers.
And it is exactly that secure, fiercely protected home environment that provides the solid ground Max needs to operate at scale. Because his home is a sanctuary, he doesn't have to expend precious mental bandwidth or emotional energy managing personal chaos or drama.
Right. He can take all of his excess recovered energy and project it outward into the business world.
Relying on high-level mentors who share his foundational values.
Which brings us to a massive gravitational force in Max's orbit, Dana White, the CEO of the UFC.
Dana is a controversial figure to some, definitely, but the picture painted here is of a mentorship predicated on intense, uncompromising loyalty.
Dana operates in absolute binary terms, right? You are either completely in his circle or you do not exist to him. But if you are in, he will go to war for you.
The examples of his loyalty in the source material are striking. I mean, Dana is running a global, multi-billion-dollar fight promotion, yet he is staying up until 2:30 in the morning on his phone, personally responding to and hammering the internet trolls in Max's social media comments.
It's wild. A billionaire CEO engaging in midnight comment section warfare just to defend his friend. We actually mentioned that private jet to Miami earlier. Dana organized and funded that entire trip.
Right, but the most revealing story happens when they actually land in Miami.
The incident at the spa. So Dana, Maxx, and their 9-person entourage head to this high-end, supposedly elite recovery spa called Anatomy. They walk in expecting hyperbaric chambers and advanced biohacking tools and realize it is basically just a regular locker room full of naked dudes walking around.
They immediately abort the mission.
Yeah, they walk out and pivot to Gary Brecka's private condo to use his personal biohacking equipment, his red light therapy beds and PEMF mats.
What is truly fascinating about this interaction is Dana's reaction to entering Gary's home. Dana White is globally recognized for being brash, loud, and utterly unapologetic.
Right.
Yet upon entering Gary's private residence with a large entourage, Dana becomes visibly flustered and embarrassed. He is deeply uncomfortable about imposing on Gary's personal space.
It reveals a level of respect, situational awareness, and boundary recognition that completely contradicts his public persona.
It shows that real power recognizes respect.
Yeah.
And it is through proximity to operators like Dana that Maxx has really begun building his own diversified business empire.
Dana facilitated an introduction between Maxx and the founders of Slate Milk Manny and Josh up in Boston, and Maxx became an investor.
He is also involved with Zen Water, partnering with massive athletes like James Harden.
He inked a deal with Shaquille O'Neal's Playmaker Network to launch his own media property, The Rush Podcast, and he's currently building a massive state-of-the-art wellness and recovery center down in Summerlin with Marty Cordova.
To grasp why this aggressive business expansion is so significant, we have to look at the tragic financial reality of professional sports. The statistics are just harrowing. Over 80% of professional athletes face financial distress or outright bankruptcy within just a few years of their playing careers ending.
80%? That is insane.
They acquire a massive influx of capital in an incredibly compressed time frame. And without a sophisticated framework to manage it, protect it, and grow it, that capital simply evaporates into bad investments and predatory leeches.
Most athletes treat an NFL career like a winning lottery ticket. They hit the jackpot, buy the cars, buy the houses, and then just try to play defense and not spend it all before they die.
But Maxx is treating his career like a venture capital fund.
Exactly. He is actively planting seeds in the soil now. He is taking board meetings, analyzing cap tables, and building equity while still putting in 8-hour days in the training facility.
And he is executing this utilizing a very specific, almost counterintuitive networking philosophy. Maxx credits a lesson from his former coach, Gus Bradley. You build authentic, powerful relationships by giving with no intent to receive.
Which you see mirrored perfectly in Dana White. Dana is famous for tipping every hotel bellman, valet, and service worker hundreds of dollars. He genuinely believes that putting that generous energy out into the world creates a current that eventually brings it back twofold.
It is about creating a slipstream of goodwill, and it extends beyond money into absolute authenticity. Maxx and Gary discuss their mutual disdain for what they call the influencer prostitute model.
Ugh, we all see it every day. Social media personalities who will accept a check to shill literally any product, no matter how toxic or ineffective it is, just for a quick payout.
Maxx aggressively refuses to operate in that space. He only invests in and promotes products that he actively, genuinely consumes in his daily routine.
The Slate milk, the perfectly balanced amino acids. If you open his refrigerator at home, that is what is actually sitting on the shelf.
That level of authenticity is the only bedrock for long-term consumer trust. When you give without the expectation of an immediate transactional return, and when you unequivocally refuse to endorse anything outside of your actual lifestyle, you transcend being an athlete with an endorsement deal.
You become a trusted authority. You are building an empire with a solid foundation.
And this philosophy of authentic outbound giving naturally culminates in their ultimate goal. They are trying to build a legacy that significantly outlasts their physical achievements on the football field or their balance sheets in the boardroom.
This is where the Maxx Crosby Foundation comes into play.
The foundation's focus is not generalized. It is highly specific and deeply personal. It is dedicated to intervening in teen substance abuse.
Which is a direct mirrored reflection of Max's own harrowing struggles as a teenager.
Exactly. Secondly, it focuses on animal rescue, inspired by his profound attachment to his 3 rescue pit bulls. He is taking his own pain and his own loves and turning them outward to protect the vulnerable.
His mentors are really stepping up to fuel this mission, too. Dana White made a massive 6-figure financial donation at the Foundation's recent charity gala.
But Gary Brecka is currently architecting something incredibly ambitious alongside him. Gary is partnering with a major social media platform to attempt to break a global fundraising record.
Right. The objective is to raise $1 million in exactly 24 hours. The platform has agreed to dollar match the funds raised, and the corporate sponsors are offering consumers a 2-for-1 deal on biohacking products, with 100% of the proceeds funneling directly to charities, primarily Max's foundation.
This massive philanthropic initiative illustrates a core psychological principle discussed heavily in their conversation. If you want to shrink your problems, just grow your purpose.
Shrink your problems, grow your purpose.
Yes. When your purpose is gargantuan, when you wake up trying to raise millions of dollars to pull teenagers out of addiction or save animals from being euthanized, the daily friction of life just loses its power.
The internet haters, the minor physical aches, the traffic on the way to the gym, they all shrink down to their proper, insignificant size because they are juxtaposed against a massive mission. It is a brilliant psychological hack. But logistically, how does a human being balance the weight of this massive world-changing purpose with the brutal minute-by-minute requirements of actually playing elite football?
The sources point to a mental framework taught to Max by coaches Rob Marinelli and Rich Bisaccia. They call it the microscope versus the telescope.
This framework is arguably the most vital, actionable, mechanical takeaway of our entire deep dive today.
I agree completely. The methodology demands that an elite performer spend 90% of their time looking exclusively through the microscope. The microscope represents the immediate present.
It is the day-to-day routine. It is the very next task in front of you. It is keeping your feet firmly planted in this exact second.
You only allow yourself to occasionally peek through the telescope the remaining 10% of your time to look at the massive long-term goals. The Super Bowl ring, the MVP trophy, the Hall of Fame induction, the $1 million charity goal.
You glance through the telescope just long enough to ensure your compass is calibrated and you are walking in the correct direction. But then you immediately pull your eye away and go back to staring through the microscope to make sure you execute the very next step perfectly.
The psychological relief provided by this approach cannot be overstated. Operating predominantly within the microscope is the ultimate biological antidote to anxiety.
Because anxiety, by definition, lives in the future, right? It is the dread of what might happen.
Yes. And depression, conversely, often lives in the past. It's the rumination and regret over what did happen. By violently refusing to dwell in either timeline and forcing your consciousness entirely into the present action, you unlock an elite, unburdened reserve of energy.
If you look closely at this framework, the microscope is just a direct, practical translation of the core operating philosophy of Alcoholics Anonymous and sobriety, taking life one day at a time.
That's a profound connection.
An addict in recovery doesn't wake up and promise they will never touch a drop of alcohol for the next 50 years. That is staring through the telescope, and it is overwhelmingly terrifying.
They just promise they won't drink today, just for the next 24 hours.
Max has taken the exact mental framework that saved his life from the gutter of addiction and applied it to becoming a Hall of Fame athlete and a business mogul.
It is the ultimate synthesis of his entire journey. The poison literally became the cure.
Let's bring this right to you, the listener. Consider your own daily routine for a second. Are you spending 90% of your time staring through the telescope?
Are you sitting at your desk constantly daydreaming about the ultimate goal, the big promotion, the finished novel, the financial freedom, while completely ignoring the microscope of the emails you need to send, the workout you need to do, the water you need to drink today?
It is a really confronting question, but shifting that ratio is the difference between perpetually dreaming and actually executing.
Which brings us full circle to the overarching theme of this dialogue, defining what it actually means to be the ultimate human.
We have tracked a massive, incredible arc today. We started with a lost, deeply insecure kid who was desperately searching for an identity at the bottom of a bottle.
We saw him endure the physical and mental crucible of the NFL, survive a brutal wake-up call, and completely transform himself into a disciplined, unyielding machine who treats his biology like a multi-million-dollar corporation.
And finally, we watched him evolve into a philanthropist, building a venture capital empire based on authentic generosity and a fiercely protected, drama-free inner circle.
Through all of this, the core trait required the defining characteristic of the ultimate human is surprisingly accessible.
Yeah.
It is the absolute refusal to be stubborn.
It is remaining endlessly curious.
It is the commitment to constant humble learning and demanding daily improvement, while simultaneously retaining deep, genuine gratitude for the baseline of what you have already achieved.
It is the ability to never think you have it all figured out, even when the rest of the world is telling you that you are at the absolute top of your game.
Exactly. And this leads to a final thought I want to leave with the listener to mull over. The journey we dissected today demonstrates clearly that world-class discipline is rarely, if ever, born from a place of comfort.
It is almost always forged by confronting a severe existential vulnerability.
Maxx Crosby's greatest current strength, his unyielding, robotic, bulletproof daily routine, was forged directly in the fire of his greatest weakness, his addiction.
So ask yourself, what weakness or past failure are you currently expending energy trying to hide or outrun?
And what would mathematically happen to your life if you finally stopped running, looked it in the mirror, and consciously repurposed that exact same obsessive energy into your greatest daily engine for success?
That is an incredibly powerful paradigm shift. Repurposing the pathology instead of just trying to medicate it. It completely changes how you look at the friction and challenges in your own life.
It certainly does.
And I can tell you right now, it definitely changes how I will look at those billion-dollar athletic franchises from now on. The next time I see a player making a game-winning play in the fourth quarter, I am not just going to marvel at their genetic talent.
I am going to wonder if they fueled that machine with reheated locker room pizza or a meticulously crafted $2,500 investment in their own temple.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep shrinking your problems by growing your purpose, and most importantly, stay curious.